resilience. I am Beatrice Maria Bellè, a postdoc researcher at the Department of Design in Politecnico di Milano, and I will be the moderator for today, and I will be very, very quick because we have lots of interesting discussion and case studies to be presented later. This event is organized by URBREATH in collaboration with GreenInCities, Regreenaration, and Commit to Green. And together we aim to explore how nature-based solution, or NBS, can help in building more resilient, healthier, and more sustainable cities. So across Europe, there are many cities that are rethinking how to create greener, healthier, and more adaptable neighborhoods. And the projects we are going to highlight today, the URBREATH, GreenInCities, Regreenaration, and Commit to Green, are all part of this wider movement. Each project that we are going to discuss with you works in a different context, but they share the common goal of using nature in tackling challenges such as heat, flooding, and biodiversity loss, while improving also the people's quality life. In particular, URBREATH is exploring the advanced tools like the digital twins and artificial intelligence to design more adaptive urban spaces. GreenInCities and Regreenaration are bringing new life to deprived urban areas through the community-led design and regeneration, while Commit to Green focus on inclusive local approaches that strengthen resilience and support Europe's net zero and climate adaptation goals. Together, these projects contribute to the European mission on climate neutral and smart cities and the mission on adaptation to climate change, showing that by working with nature, we can design cities that are not only sustainable, but that are also more equitable and resilient. Today's session runs for 75 minutes, and we will bring we'll be with an overview of what nature-based solutions are, followed by a series of inspiring case studies from Cluj-Napoca, Porto, Paris, and The Hague. We will conclude with a question and answer session and sharing of the key resources. I just want to ask you to keep your microphone muted, and feel free to post any question either in the chat or through the session. And I think we can start. So I will leave the floor to. I don't remember what. Okay, let me see to who I am.
I think I'm starting.
Yes, sorry, I didn't see you in the, presentation.
Hi, Beatrice. Sorry. Here is Andrea. Someone should enable the sharing of the screen for me. Okay, yeah, thank you. So thank you very much, Beatrice, for the introduction. I'm here as a partner of GreenInCities, first of all. So this is one of the nature-based solution projects funded by the Horizon Europe call on regreening cities within the NEB mission. So today I will present a sort of general methodological framework for planning and designing NBS, and a sequence of best practices that comes from the experience of Land, the company for which I work, that is actually the partner of GreenInCities. So LAND stands for Landscape Architecture Nature Development. It's a company founded in Italy and Germany 30 years ago. Just to give you a quick introduction, we deal with landscape design at every scale, so at territorial and master plan scales till to urban parks and mitigation of infrastructures. Within Land, we have a unit dedicated for research and innovation that is a partner of several European initiatives, such as GreenInCities, as I mentioned, but also other projects on NBS, UNALab, and Mediren and Climax above all. So The context of actions, quite broadly, is a global attention on the topic of nature-based solutions. So starting from the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, where a specific task force published for the first time in 2024 the term nature positive cities, and behind that there is all the concept of working with nature, and so nature-based solution as well. Till to the European level, well, we know quite well how the Green Deal since 2019 boosted the presence of nature-based solution and sustainability into urban actions. Why are we talking about this? Because we, as professionals, policymakers, and researchers, must face several challenges that are affecting urban and rural landscapes, such as climate extreme events, urban regeneration, ecosystem degradation, and the governance of landscape. We must act now to face climate hazards. We are quite aware how scientists pointed out the quite urgent timeline to take actions in order to reduce the effects of climate change on human health, on ecosystem health, and in general on well-being in our cities. It's also a cultural matter. We have seen in the past 5-10 years how society mobilized towards a greater awareness on climate change, on the need of taking action and reintroduce nature in our lives. This must be supported by policies, of course, otherwise it would be a weak positioning. So, as I mentioned, the World Economic Forum already stressed this topic of nature positive cities and published some guidelines in order to rehabilitate nature in urban areas. However, this recommendation and these international policies must become regulations and local policies. We know that at European level, the European Commission committed within the European Green Deal also with other initiatives such as the New European Bauhaus, and within this framework also the let's say fight for the natural restoration law that has been now finally approved last year and will require consequent actions in the next decades. So coming to nature-based solutions, what are they? According to the definition of the European Commission, they are solutions that are inspired and supported by nature, which are cost-effective, simultaneously provide environmental, social, and economic benefits, and help build resilience. What is peculiar in nature-based solution is their broad applicability and also the adaptability to local concepts, the involvement of local communities, and the systemic cooperation with other disciplines and other resources where they are applied. Nature-based solutions are an umbrella for several acronyms and terms that we currently use in the practice, in research. I won't go through them, but we must be aware that when we talk about green infrastructure or suits, we shall at least go everybody in the same direction because they all have the same purpose at the end. As landscape architect, I can introduce the approach that we are embracing at Land, that is changing the paradigm of how we think, we live, and we plan cities. So not anymore starting from the infrastructure or the built environment, but on the other way around, starting from people and starting from nature, from green areas. Green can help us, so it's a great ally in doing that because several scientific studies, and I think this public is quite aware of them, are demonstrating in the past 20 years how nature-based solutions, how green areas contribute in reducing temperature, in improving urban drainage, in improving air quality, and so on. So some practical examples, you see how nature-based solution can be interpreted then in peri-urban parks, in urban parks, in neighborhood green areas, and so on. What is important to take into consideration is how the design process of nature-based solution shall occur. So what the starting point is the engagement of stakeholders and the assessment of the local environment in order then to start a co-creation process, and then also a co-implementation, and finally a co-management. So the participation of stakeholders is a key component in order to ensure efficient nature-based solution, but also sustainable in terms of economic backing, in terms of maintenance, in terms of technical contribution by other partners in each context. Also, the topic of monitoring is quite important, not only to contribute into building knowledge about nature-based solution, but also in order to adapt the design, in order to control how the design and then the implemented design is working in the specific area of intervention. So how can we design context specific? We identified three main steps, let's say. So first of all, understanding the ecosystem. Nowadays, we have several tools to do that. We have satellite images, we have sensors, we have GIS-based ecosystem assessment. We will see some of them in the second part of the presentation, where I will present some best practices we've been involved in. So basically, spatial analysis, mapping of humans and more than humans, challenges that may be also social challenges, for example, and then explore inside the area and outside the area. Inside through works, observation on some field, and outside through desk research. Second step is targeting the benefits we want to achieve on the area. So starting from the challenges, we are able to assess the dynamics that are causing the effects and identify the expected benefits and consequently the ecosystem services we need to address and to achieve the benefits. Finally, third step, selecting the NBS and prototyping. So thanks to the selection of ecosystem services, we are able to identify which are the NBS that are most suitable to our intervention. We adapt them to the context. For example, this is a common situation that we faced. Many NBS have been published in detail and they are quite adaptable in Northern Europe. However, if you design it on Mediterranean context, you shall adapt them to a quite different climate. And then define who are the users and who are the ambassadors. Ambassadors are who is able to support the implementation of NBS or support the policies, and then maybe also take care of the maintenance together with the public authority or to the private investor. And finally, prototype and monitor. Prototype in the sense that sometimes is a good idea to start implementing small pilots in order to test them and then upscale and replicate them on bigger scale. The monitoring is a great ally of prototyping, so that through the monitoring outcomes, the upscaling is quite more effective. And so then combine all the components in order to design multifunctional green areas and thriving ecosystems that are adapting to the challenges of climate change. Here are some examples in the projects that Land had the opportunity to develop in the last 35 years. For example, North Park in Milan was a quite extensive brownfield, and through several afforestation interventions and other, let's say, nature-based solution ante litteram, we had the opportunity to turn this area into a metropolitan park, one of the most interesting peri-urban parks in the Italian context, or this former quarry in the Alpine valley of Valtellina that was turned into a new urban park, deploying several NBS such as ponds, afforestation actions, and draining paths. Or again, on the Ligurian Riviera, a former railway that was turned into a bike lane with the linear park all along it. Here we are in Germany, in the Ruhr area, so one of the most important industrial basins in Europe. After the closure of heavy industry in the 90s, we had the opportunity between 2006 and 2012 to work on this huge project, turning the former damp and factory of ThyssenKrupp steel company into a new office headquarters and a urban park that is managing several issues such as rainwater and the excavation soils from the construction site. Here you see how, thanks to green areas, we were able to design some bioswales, some hills, some afforestation areas, playgrounds, everything connected into a quite systemic cycle. In Genova, that is again in the region of Liguria, we had the opportunity to be partner of an Horizon Action from 2017 to 2022. UNALAB. Within UNALAB, we turned a 1.5 hectare barrack, former military barrack, into urban park. We demolished 5 buildings in the area, and we unsealed as much as possible. There was a co-creation process, and through the co-creation process, we were able to place functions that are vital for the neighborhood. And then, on the other hand, we had the challenges that coming from the peculiarity of the site, so very steep, very not very sealed in general, with a lot of rocks underneath. But the final result was a first attempt also to introduce a nature-based solution in such harsh Mediterranean context. Another project is in the metropolitan area of Milan, in the northern part of it, that is one of the most urbanized areas in Italy, suffering severe flooding when there are heavy rain events. And here, working together with the local water facility, we were able to turn the initial project of a contention basin made of concrete into a urban park, almost avoiding the use of concrete and other artificial materials. So in this case, you see it's a depression that is collecting rainwater. It can be used as an urban park when it's not raining, and when it's raining, it becomes a huge pond. Another European action where we were able to improve the knowledge of the benefits of nature-based solution was Urbalytics, that was funded by AI for Copernicus Horizon project. We partnered with Latitudo 40, and we developed a methodology to assess urban climate risk through the analysis of Copernicus satellite images. You see the results on the top of the slide. So there are three main outputs that are tools in order to assess the heatwave potential risk, the macroclimatic performance index, and the Park-Cool Island assessment. And this was intended to assess which nature-based solution were able to improve the conditions in two pilot areas in Milan and Naples, so two very different climates and urban situations. So nature-based solution can also be a great intervention at small scale. We had experience of that within another Horizon 2020 project called T-Factor that worked on meanwhile spaces. Again, in Milan, we were able in a very wide urban regeneration area to introduce nature-based solution as a booster for a dialogue with different institutions and to involve external stakeholders that were not included in the urban regeneration projects, such as schools. Here we realized very tiny solutions, so basically some planters and some natural meadows with the QR code that informed the participants, but also the employees of the companies already established in the area, how local biodiversity had an impact on their everyday life. So this was also an attempt to introduce citizen science into the monitoring of nature-based solution. And together with Politecnico di Milano, we developed a quite interesting website within the project website where we published a bestiarium and herbarium that are two catalogs of herbs and animals that are living in the area. The role of non-humans or more than humans is very important in the design of NBS. This is something that came out in the last 5 years rather than when NBS were first conceived in 2015. In several projects, the partners are really pushing for including animals and other more than humans characters into the design and the implementation of green areas. Here you see some examples how we developed some animal-oriented solutions in a park in Amsterdam. So they are very tiny interventions that however, were able to engage also some citizens in the making. And this is the final result, how in the urban regeneration area also tiny prototypes can become then established and long-lasting solutions. Unsealing, it's another very important topic for European cities where we can orient towards nature-based solutions. This is another case study in Italy, in the city of Vercelli, in the north of Italy, not far from Turin. You see there was this very long alley in the center of the city with many trees. However, they were all belonging to the same species. They are ulmus, and the most of the surface was sealed with several inconveniences during summer or during heavy rain episodes. Here we established a fruitful dialogue with the local public administration, and we managed to propose a design based on green instead of asphalt. So the asphalt surface has been reduced and a draining pavement has been established in replacement of that. On the other hand, new trees with more species have been planted and also shrubs and herbs in order to improve biodiversity and draining conditions. Here you see the planting actions in the spring 24, and this is the result in summer 24 and last fall, with the bloomings this year in May. Here again is another example of how NBS can support us in managing rainwater harvesting and management in general, draining. Again, in the north of Milan, it's a park where rainwater is collected, but on the other hand, the park is also an accessible area during dry periods. And finally, I will talk to you about the pilot that we are developing within GreenInCities project. There will be also another partner, Jose Miguel, that will talk in this panel. We are in the city of Prato, so in Tuscany, quite dense urban core and a very scattered urban fabric all around with several industrial and residential neighborhoods. Through the tools that we improved within GreenInCities, we were able to run an assessment of climate challenges, of biodiversity and vulnerable groups in the city. And we identified with the local administration this school district that is called San Paolo, where most of the challenges are more significant. Here you see the same tools applied at local level in order to identify which are the areas that are more vulnerable and which are the components that we must address in the landscape design. We did a co-analysis and co-design process with the pupils in the schools and the teachers. And the outcome of the co-creation was this master plan for the entire school compound, where we focus on two specific lots of intervention, the blue ones, that are currently under design. We are expected to deliver the technical design at the end of the month, so that in springtime the construction will start. In general, just to give you an overview of which are the nature-based solutions introduced, we are working on flower meadows for pollinators. We are improving the condition of an existing sport building that has been just realized. However, in the hill next to it and the green areas all around, there is just grass at the moment. So the idea is to improve the tree canopy and also to work on green facades. However, we are not working with technological facade, instead with ground-based facade, including some reused materials from the textile industry to create opportunities for insects and other small fauna to nest and to feed. These green walls will also mitigate the quite rough concrete walls of the sports center, and will be combined with the other lot where we will design some tiny forests and some wild buffer zones in order to improve the green corridors existing in the area. We have been in touch with another Italian university, that is La Sapienza in Rome, because they have developed other tiny forests in Mediterranean contexts in Italy. So we are able to adapt also this concept that is coming from the Miyawaki method from Japan, also in our climate. And of course, our main concern at the moment is how we are addressing the needs of more than humans in our interventions. We are working quite deeply in the project in order to have them included in the design. That's all. I just wanted to close with this picture that was an installation we did for the Triennale in Milan, and that I think somehow recalls the name of URBREATH, because here was let's break it up in order to breath. And so I leave you with this image.
Thank you, Andrea, for your presentation. It was very inspiring and also useful. We have already some questions, but I think that we can leave it for the end of the session. So I will leave the floor to Alexandra and Kodrut from that will present the case studies of our breath in action. And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Beatrice. Just a moment. This works. Image. Sorry. Yeah. So do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So hello, everyone. My name is Alexandra Poliec, and I'm part of Cluj-Napoca municipality team. And today I will present an overview of the main nature-based solution and greening initiatives in Cluj-Napoca. I will talk about three key elements: how international competition drive major green projects, why small-scale action remain essential, and we are going to talk about the URBREATH journey that will be presented by my colleague Kodrut. Cluj-Napoca has over 300,000 residents and more than 80,000 students. It's one of the fastest growing city regions in the European Union, and it's known for its strong knowledge base and innovative tech ecosystem. Our city is in a valley between the hills. The Someș River is our main ecological axis, with several green patches and transversal corridors, linking the river to the forest, to the med towns and other natural areas. Our vision is to be green, digital, and resilient, and for that we work really hard. And for all the work that we do, we become and we were among the first 10 cities in the EU to be awarded with the EU Mission Label, a title under the 100 climate neutral and smart city initiatives. Our international competitions have become a key tool for delivering high-quality spaces in Cluj-Napoca. They ensure transparency, strong participation, and most importantly, the best idea wins, not the cheapest offer in line with the national public procurement rules. One of the best examples is the Rethinking Someș project, which recently won the gold prize at the Madrid Architecture Awards 2025. The concept focuses on turning the city back toward the river and creating high-quality public and ecological spaces along the water. Another great example is the Ferroviarul Park. It complements the investment in the multifunctional green spaces and strengthens the green-blue corridor along the Someș River. It shows how the large green spaces can reconnect communities and improve ecological continuity. Also, here you can find examples of the nature-based solutions such as the rainwater management and many others. Here are some pictures. Our long-term ambition is to develop a metropolitan blue corridor along the entire Someș River. The vision integrates nature-based solutions, flood mitigation, biodiversity restoration, and accessibility to the public spaces and at the metropolitan scale. We have also like the big project, the East Park is one of the largest green infrastructure projects in the city. It covers over 45 hectares of the wetlands, lakes, and former nursery land. The project aims to protect the biodiversity while creating accessible and recreational spaces. Another project is the Primăveri Park. It's a neighborhood scale investment in Mănăștur. The park is being expanded and modernized. The redesign includes new trees, green areas, urban furniture, and improved mobility access. It's actually a clear example of how small parks can greatly improve the quality of life locally. And beside all of these major projects, the small-scale actions are equally important. They address the local needs, are quicker to implement, and often rely on participation or partnership. They also help maintain everyday green quality across the city. Some examples include the Adopt a Green Spaces program, active since 2012, the former Tree for Every Newborn initiatives, and also what we do right now in the URBREATH journey, which transform degraded microsites using a small budget but strong community involvement. Codruț, the floor is
Thank you,
yours.
Alexandra. Yeah, I will take it over from here to present the URBREATH journey for us. So, yeah, I don't have permission to share the screen. Can you? I have been promoted. Okay, screen share. Just a second. 1 second. Okay, so where does URBREATH and our part in URBREATH fit in this landscape of big transformations? So Alexandra presented a few examples of flagship projects, but to put it into a scale, since the first international competition included in 2017 in the Someș River, the Rethinking Someș project, which now has been awarded, in these 7 or 8 years, they had at least one international competition per year, if not multiple. So in 7 years, they started major projects in urban parks and urban gardens, which will improve the quality of the city as a whole by a lot. But then it remains the local needs and local priorities of the communities, meaning the immediate proximities of residential areas. So this is where URBREATH fill in the gaps. So it focuses on small and degraded fragments of green space, which are too small or too difficult to justify flagship projects or standalone projects, but too valuable to ignore. And this is why we selected in URBREATH 4 pilot sites, which are all of them connected to the Blue River Corridor Someș, the Little Someșul Mic. And through our experiment with limited funding and budget, we want to demonstrate how we can pilot affordable green transformation of these areas, which will improve the quality of life of immediate residents with their help. So embedded in a co-creation framework. If we were to put our effort into some few words, I can say that we rely on creativity under constraints. And we face spatial constraints because the sites have various spatial and functional restrictions. Just to mention a few: electrical lines, which forbids the planting of tall vegetations, floodable areas. Also, the morphology of the sites are very difficult. There are narrow sites with unplanned, let's say, elements, with no infrastructures, with some debris in some cases. Then there is the human resources. We have this opportunity of tackling these sites through this project, which helps a lot, but we have limited budget in terms of approaching the sites as a standard project. So instead of hiring an architect and having a complex project which relies on permits with pathways and everything, we rely on something that leans a bit on the guerrilla urbanism component, more or less, but under a citizen science and participatory process. So the technical designs that I will show were developed collaboratively with a group of volunteers. We worked very close with the citizens, and that's how we deliver the plans, which are now ready to take roots. We are preparing for the planting season, hopefully this year, or some of them, and the rest next year. So this is where the financial constraints comes in. As I said, the budget is restricted, so implementation relies on donations, low-cost materials, and volunteer work for planting actions and so forth. And here we have to I mean, URBREATH team maybe knows, but Alexandra fought a lot with local actors that in order to gain trust and gain support from different suppliers and different people that can help us in this journey. And also cross departmental collaboration within the municipality is very relevant to avoid and better use the available resources. To put it simply, the Green Space Department will do this work, help us planting in a sort of a pro bono way. These are the sites. The first one, Alexandru Sahia, it's a narrow strip of greenery which separates traffic lanes in a residential area, which is quite heavily trafficated, so air pollution is a problem, also heat island effect. It's very close connected. It can have the purpose of a pedestrian route from A to B, B meaning the second side, which is bordering the river. These are the electrical lines that I was talking about. It has a very valuable natural ambience, and biodiversity is very present here, but it can be enhanced. What lacks is the community interaction. People are not using these sites because it lacks some elements that make it functional. At the moment, it's only a gravel pathway which was created by people crossing through the site. The third site is bordered by social housing and the river in the right. You see here this concrete fence. This is where the river bank starts. It's an area which is not transited by any other users than the people living here. So it has a different vocation, and this translates into our designs. And the site 4, it's near the river, but is across the river bank, which is a steep slope which resulted from the systematization of the river and the flood protection measures that were taken back when the city developed some years ago. So how do we start? In January 2025 with consultation sessions and workshops. We had in January 2 discussions in the 2 neighborhoods, Iris neighborhood and Someșa neighborhood, with all types of actors, residents, NGOs, as you see here, for part of our consultation. And it is very funny that this dog was present because we found out that actually animals are relevant actors in the area, that beavers are making a comeback in the city landscape in this corridor. So we realized more than before that the Someș River and our sites also acts as an ecological corridor, and it's very relevant how we interact with this space and this landscape. Furthermore, in April, we organized a 2-week workshop with a group of volunteers and students from agricultural faculty from the local university with the landscape department. We had spontaneous discussions with the residents. We did the site analysis, we did observations, we did thermal mapping, and with all of these informations, we worked very closely with the students in order to develop conceptual plans, concept ideas. And there were 3 teams elaborating ideas for each of the 4 sites. So we had 12 solutions in the end, and these solutions were put to a vote by the community. They were displayed in public area, in Armatura Park, and then also in a different area. I don't remember now, Alexandra, the second display, where was it? However, we gathered more than 300 votes. And with the winning team, we started over summer 2025 to work with them on the technical design plans. So we did this process to be a sort of mutual learning process, and we consider the people, the students that work with us, a very core group of people that we want to involve also in the future actions. It would be maybe easier just to take their ideas and do the technical design plans by ourselves, but we took the opportunity of working together, and they had a lot to learn about how to deal with the real project because they were still students, 3rd year or 4th year, or even younger. And we also did a lot of learning ourselves because they know the city quite well. Some of the students actually live in the area, and we sort of had a back and forth of ideas and technical requirements and our constraints, which were financial, and moreover, to deliver the final plans. And these are the list of quantities to put it simply, 203 trees, fruit trees, fruit shrubs, a lot of shrubs and perennial plants, because like I said, the height of the vegetation is under constraint because of the electrical line. The Site 1 transformation vision is somewhere along these lines to act as a green buffer with dense vegetation, a sort of a microforest. We also dabbled a bit with the concept of Miyawaki idea, like Andrea presented before, but not quite because the morphology of the terrain doesn't allow. But we want to bring taller vegetation here because it's one of the few sites that allow taller vegetation alongside pollinator-friendly vegetation in these shrubs and grasses, which helps to create separation between the traffic lanes and the pedestrian. The second site acts more as an exploratory route and a multifunctional public space with areas with strong natural ambiances and also places for community garden and community orchard. The third area is a more multifunctional space. As you see here in this plan, I don't know if you see it very well, we kept the openness of the site alive. It's one of the main features of this meadow. And we activated some areas with pollinator-friendly plantations and perennial plants in order to bring color, to support biodiversity, and improve the local landscape. And as community activities, we allow for interaction spaces, open area for sports, but also community orchards and community gardens, like 2 small areas here. And the fourth one becomes this green corridor, this slope terrain, because an area for play and socialize, but we also bring here some tall vegetation where we can, in order to complete the canopy that appears on the other side of the riverbank in order to have continuity, and also fruit trees. These co-design sessions sort of ended and we moved towards co-implementation, and in October we had the first temporary action event in which we closed the street, the core site of Work 3, and we had here sport activities and exploratory activities with the youth focused on ecological aspects and nature. It was a very nice event with huge participation, and we think that it's a good starting point to bring value to the space before we start implementing. And in terms of URBREATH, there are many technical elements and digital elements that we will pilot through this project, like participation and sensors. We installed the air quality sensors in the proximity of the sites and different urbanistic analysis. I put here only an extract of the digital tools of the digital twin, because we believe it can make a relevant case of analyzing the existing situation and the proposed situation. So with the proposed vegetation, to make some simulation of the tree growth, of the shadow map analysis, maybe also in the future of the water requirements, in order to better manage, better understand how to manage the sites, and also to improve participatory processes, showcasing the residents how the site will become before we start implementing and show how it will evolve. Yeah, and I think that that is all from us.
Thank you, Alexandra and Kodrut. So I will leave the floor to the case studies of GreenInCities in action, and Jose will be able to present, I think.
Yes, thank you so much, Beatrice. Let me just ask you if you could confirm if you're seeing the full screen or the presenter view, because sometimes I get
full screen.
Yeah, still.
No, in this case, presenter mode.
Okay,
but
now it's...
before it was full screen.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
So I'll start. First and foremost, thank you for the invitation. I'm a professor in landscape architecture, passionate about landscape architecture and urban design. What you're going to see are the case studies and the projects that we have been developing together with the city of Porto, because when the university and the municipality get together, we can actually have much more sustainable and interesting solutions. So I'm going to present mainly the climate resilient parks of Porto, which are floodable parks that are used as a measure measure for the climate resilience of the city. So just to contextualize, we all know that the climate is changing, that the regions are not going to be affected in the same way, but it's very important that we all look at what's happening in Portugal, because I do believe that the climate is changing faster now due to the closeness to the Gulf Stream than in the rest of Europe. And probably Portugal is an indicator of what's coming in the rest of Europe. And in this presentation, I'm going to explain to you why. We also know, this is the city of Porto, that the most urban areas are going to be the ones that are the most affected by climate change. This is, of course, due to highly imperviousness, but this is also where people live and where we should act in priority. So there is just one key point for this presentation, which is that we should all strive at making our cities more permeable and store water into the ground. Most people don't know that the biggest reservoir of drinkable water are not the lakes, are not the rivers, it's the ground. The ground stores the water that we need to live, but most importantly, it also stores the water that the trees need to evapotranspirate and to effectively cool down the city. It's very important that we think of a tree, that we understand what is a tree, and that most part of the tree is what's hidden. And we also know that in the cities, whenever it rains, most of the water in the permeable areas goes and recharges the water tables. One of my biggest advocacy in the last years is to actually make sure that our cities have healthy water tables. The water tables in the city of Porto, they're lowering at an alarming rate of 1 meter per year. This means that the city is getting more impervious, and because the city is getting more impervious, the water tables are getting lower, and the water is not going up through capillarity, it's not reaching the roots, and it's not being evapotranspirated into the air. And it's this evapotranspiration of water that creates this thin layer of moist that can actually act as a thermal inertia and effectively cools down the city. This is the reason why in many European cities, and I speak in particular of Coimbra and Barcelona, you now have areas of the city that have trees where the thermal behavior is the same as pavement. This is extremely alarming, because if the trees don't have enough water, the trees are extremely smart, they close their stomata and they protect themselves. And they protect themselves by closing the stomata and not evapotranspirating. And if they don't evapotranspirate, they don't cool down the city. And this is also the reason why cities like Barcelona, that between 2022 and 2024, they had 1,000 days of drought. I'm saying the right number, 1,000 days. The average yearly precipitation for Barcelona during this period was 350 millimeters of water. That's the same as the desertic climate. And because of that, because not enough water was being pushed into the ground, and because they kept on pumping water from the water tables, this is the image of Barcelona with the reservoirs without water and the lakes and dams without water. But most concerningly, the part that I'm extremely concerned about is this: the urban parks that are getting dry, the trees that are still dying today because of low water tables, and what used to be meadows and lawns are turning into pavement because the soil without ground cover just erodes and quickly transitions into this pre-desert landscape. So that's why in everything that we do, 100% of the water that falls on site is infiltrated on site. We don't abide that principle. And that's why I'm trying to spread this almost like a religion a little bit all over Europe, because this is what we should all strive for. Solutions like this one, Pacto Limited Cards, was developed in the framework of another EU project called URBREATH. These are the kind of solutions that we can implement where we guide the water on the surface, both by the paved areas and the green areas, towards water infiltration areas that basically act as a piston. They retain the water and they infiltrate the water and they push the water into the ground and they recharge the aquifers. This is extremely important. It's dependent and reliable on the geology. Porto sits on granites. It takes longer time for the water to infiltrate, which means that we really need to do this to assure the resilience of the city. This is a very important work that we have done 15 years ago, where we mapped the green structure of the city. This allowed us to make a diagnostic on the areas that lacked green spaces, like the center of the city, the areas that had quite interesting green structure, and we also thought about how to make connections, how to make linkages, and how to link society and urban design with green spaces. I lived for 5 years in Copenhagen, and the councilman for urban design always told me that the success of the Danes in promoting urban life quality was related with the fact that since the 1960s, they think and design the city from the green structure, which means that it's also the social structure and ecological structure of the city. But look at these numbers. About 1/3 of the city is green. This is a very good number. This is on par with most European cities. So this is a number to be protected. But look carefully at this image, and I'm going to ask you to use your imagination. Try to imagine the same map where you just push all of the buildings towards one side and you push all of the green spaces towards the other side. How would the map of the city be? This would be the map of the city. And yes, 24% of the city are buildings, 32% are urban green spaces, but look at the name and the number in the middle. 44% of the city is devoted to the car, roads, paved surfaces. Of course, we also have the sidewalk, but these are mainly parking spaces. Look how much area of the city we devote to the car. This is also very important because Porto has a huge housing crisis. So we need to increase the percentage of buildings. It's needed. I'm totally in favor of that, but never at the cost of urban green spaces, always at the cost of this huge number of paved surfaces. This is the same as all of the other cities. Other cities are just like Porto. Porto it's the product of its time, and it's a product of an urban design that promotes the car as a key structure for the city. But look, this is also the reason why Paris committed to removing 40% of the asphalt as a way to face the problems with the heat waves. This is the most effective way to address the problems of peak temperatures of 56 degrees that the city is facing on a yearly basis. So this is a place to act. But we also have green spaces. Green spaces can also be improved, and we can also act on them. If you look at the city of Porto and you start data mining the 32% of urban green spaces, you can clearly see that 22% are private. This is a very important number. No true policy on protecting urban green spaces can be developed and implemented without involving the private owners. Only 10% are publicly owned. It's the same in most European areas. And we do know that people tend to be afraid of maintenance. They tend to pave their courtyards. So that's why it's important that we address these private areas. Porto has a huge percentage of private areas that are not visible. As you can see, this is the urban layout of Porto, and you can see in dark green the non-visible green spaces, and in light green the visible green spaces. And what we don't see, we don't protect. But it's very important that the municipality acts on protecting these private green spaces. We know that they're getting more and more and more impervious. Scandinavian countries, for example, to the owners of private green areas in the city that protect the perviousness and protect the trees, because perviousness and trees are of a public benefit. They give them a reward by exempting them of taxes. It's very important that someone that protects something that's of a common good and the common interest gets rewarded. Otherwise, we're going to end up with urban blocks, same as the one that you can see in here, which is now representative of the urban blocks of Porto, where the city is getting more and more and more impervious. And that's the reason why the water tables are lowering and lowering and lowering. But the question is also, what can the city do within those 10% of public areas and the public green spaces? And those are the two climate resilient parks that we have developed. These are the university campus. It's a project that has been developed by my dear colleague Paul Marx, I, and a large team. These are the two parks. One of them is 12 years old. The other one is 3 years old. And they have, as all of these green spaces, they have sad stories. This is our university campus. In here, you can see the building of the Faculty of Engineering, and on the lower part, sorry, there's some strange sound. Sorry, I'll move to another place. I'm actually in Manchester at university, and some alarm went off. I'm just going.
We cannot hear you anymore.
It's in the whole building. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's an
We hear you
alarm
again.
that's set up in the whole building. So it's
So
there's
we
no
don't
fire
hear
in
the
here.
noise.
Okay,
We didn't
sorry.
hear any noise.
Sorry
so
this
it was
for this interruption. Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, sorry. It's just an alarm that apparently sets up all the time. So I'm just going to resume 3 more minutes. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We don't hear
Okay,
in our.
Okay, thank you so much. So I was saying that when they built the Faculty of Engineering, they of course built it on top of a water course because it was the place that they selected. This is quite common. So they basically force tube the water course and they put it in here, and there were no connection between the different faculties. So what happened is that, of course, as the watershed and the large scale watershed got more and more and more impervious, they had flooding constantly. So we were commissioned to daylight the watercourse. This was actually an alternative to the standard engineering solution, which is a larger pipe. So there was, because there were floodings, the engineer said, let's put a larger pipe, and the landscape architect said, let's keep the pipe and let's make a park and let's flood a park. So basically, in the process, we created this wonderful park that connects the faculties. I'm not going to speak about the social benefits, the ecological benefits. I'm going to speak mainly about how we devise and design this as a large-scale infrastructure to protect the cities. Because if you flood the park, you protect the city. So this is a park, a fantastic green structure, so that when it rains, 100% of the rain that falls on site is managed and infiltrated on site. Plus, it also receives water from other areas, and we have designed a set of water retention basins that connect between them. The water retention basins, they look like this. This is what you see. Kids love to play soccer in here because the ball rolls back into the middle. But most importantly, what you don't see is that underneath we have about 70 centimeters of crushed stone and a permeable layer. This means that whenever it rains, most of the water goes and soaks and infiltrates into the ground. If we have a 20-year storm event, that very unlikely rain, that's high intensity, that only happens every 20 years, underneath this lawn, there is an added capacity of 70 centimeters, but then the water will start to accumulate on surface. So for the 50-year storm event, the water will circulate between the different water retention basins and will go to the water canal and fill in the water canal. But for the 100-year storm event, and we plan for the 100-year storm event, most of the park sits lower than the streets, which means that the whole park is designed to be flooded with 25 to 75 centimeters. And this is controlled floods. It's actually good for the plants, but basically after a massive flood, you just need to clean it, and that's it. The park will restore and regain. But of course, the most important message is we designed this hoping that it would work. We designed this knowing that the likelihood that we would see water on the surface would be once every 20 years, probably twice in our lifetime. This is something that as a landscape designer, you design and you kind of pray that it works, but pay close attention to the next image. On the 19th of October, 2019, on a nice sunny day, a friend of mine was running in the park, and all of a sudden he saw all of the seagulls landing in the park, and he could not understand why. And then all of a sudden he saw a thick dark cloud approaching, and in just 10 minutes it rained on this area, the same that it usually rains in September, October, and November. This is called a cloudburst. It's a localized event. It was not the same all over the city. It happened in this region, but it's very important that the park had already been built and that the park got flooded and the university got protected and the more urban areas got protected. The intensity of the rain was so high that the distribution systems that we had between the basins, this is all physics. It's all mechanical. No complex engineering solutions. Everything in here works just by gravity. It's a passive system. And these are the ones that mimic nature. Mimic does not require any complex technological system. And the system just worked, the park got flooded, and the more urban areas got protected. So after this, we thought, okay, we had that extremely unlikely event. This is quite good. The park endured it. But 2022, it happened again. 2024, it happened again. 2025, it happened 2 times. The last of it last Friday. And the thing is that you may think, okay, but didn't he say that this is supposed to happen only once every 20 years? And he's already describing 5 times that this happened. Yes, you're absolutely right. The thing is that all of the climate calculations are wrong. Why? Because they're based on historical data and they have not been updated to the new climate conditions. And that's why we're trying to force people to update the climate calculations because the 20-year storm event is happening every year. So we have to be even more ambitious and go further and past the 100-year event because the 100-year event, it's actually happening every 20 years or every 10 years. The second park, and this is the last one, it's a little bit more ambitious. This is the continuation of the previous park. In 2003, 22 years ago, it looked like this. As you can see, there is a water course. If there was a huge rain, the water course would flood the agricultural playing fields, and that's okay. That's how nature is supposed to work. It actually fertilizes the fields. But look at the location of the water course. The metro line came, new buildings came, imperviousness came, urbanization came, and the water course was just moved from side to side to side to side. Also pay close attention to one important detail, which is not a detail, which is that the metro line sits lower than the water course. And this was so badly planned that there was a risk that during a massive rainfall, the water would get inside the metro canal, thus creating about 30 million euros in property damage. So we are commissioned to find a way to protect the metro canal, thus avoiding this. So, of course, we did what we usually do, which is we made a wonderful park that it's the most used park in Porto from a runners and the cycling perspective, because it's close to where people live. It's a neighborhood park, but it also has a fantastic structure that looks at the watercourses. This is how the watercourses looked. Think how badly we have been treating the watercourses for decades in the previous years. This is how the watercourse looked. Please always bear in mind that the water that reaches the red polygon in the middle is the water that falls in the yellow polygon, which means that engineers are extremely good at taking the water from a new urbanization and pushing the problem away. So all of the water will flow at the same time to the same place, which is this urban park. Nowadays, fortunately, we have been able to force new urbanizations to retain the water on site, but we know that the city is getting more imperviousness, and these kind of projects are extremely important. So we designed a park which is wonderful. I'm not going to speak about the ecology and the social benefits, but I'm going to speak about this structure in here, which is a retention dam that acts and allows for the park to be flooded. So the way this works, it works just like a sink. So when the water comes, if it's a low amount of water, it just passes through. If it's an extreme rain event, the water is so it's such a large volume that it will start to fill in this area and to flood the park. This was made by topography, and the park is designed to be flooded with 2.63 meters. 2.63 meters. So a large volume of water, 10,000 cubic meters. 10,000 cubic meters is the volume of a 5-story tall building. It's a huge volume of water, will be retained on site, and it will be slowly put back into the system, but only the amount of water that the system can endure. The thing is that we went further than the 100-year storm event, and we have an added capacity of 2,000 cubic meters more in this region. The way this works is just like this. Most people that walk and run and cycle in the park don't realize about this important infrastructure. But it works in the way that the water goes through. If it's a huge event, the park can be full of water, and then there is an overtop bypass that will flood the next part. So this is a system that we have designed thinking, okay, this is designed to work only for the 50-year storm event. So we're flooding the park and we're protecting the metro. Look, you can clearly see that the metro line sits lower than the watercourse, quite common in an urban setting, but this is designed for an extremely unlikely event. However, it already happened. 15 days before the opening, we had such a huge storm event that the park got flooded. There's a very funny story, which is that there was a news reporter that saw this, and he was going to write the news in the national press saying, look, there's a new park in Porto that has been so poorly built that it's already flooded. And fortunately, the Minister of Environment heard about this, and he told the reporter, no, don't write that. This is actually meant to be flooded. And because it flooded, it's actually demonstrated that it worked, and it protected the city, and it protected the oncology hospital. So it worked exactly how it was meant. This is an image from 2022. Now, last Friday, we had 90 millimeters of rainfall in one day, 60 millimeters of which came in 15 minutes. So again, same thing. The park got flooded, the park protected the city, this area emptied in a couple of hours, and the park looks amazing and beautiful. But if you ask me, am I concerned about these images? No. This is how the park was designed to act. This is how the park was intended to act. The part that scares me the most, the part that I'm extremely concerned about, is what happened 3 months before these photos. You can see the park flooded with water. 3 months before we had this. Dry watercourses. Watercourses, they function based on the height of the water tables. And because the water tables keep on getting lower and lower and lower, for the first time in 100 years, these watercourses lost the water. And if watercourses lose the water, it's going to change the ecology of the watercourse, and it's going to change the ecology of the city. So that's why, for me, I have been strongly advocating into let's make cities more permeable, and let's make sure that we recharge the watercourses so we can sustain the ecology of the city and we can sustain the human life in the city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josep. It was a very interesting presentation. We are running very, very late, but I don't feel that I have to stop anyone. So in this case, I will leave the floor to Leah, that will explain something about the project that you are working on in Paris.
Yes, thank you, Benedetta, and thank you to all the speakers. All the presentations were very impressive. So I'm Leah, and I'm a project officer at the Department of Green Spaces and Environment of the City of Paris. And I'm really pleased to be part of this event, which perfectly connects with the European projects we are involved in, such as Regreenaration and UNP+. And today, I like to walk you through how Paris is shifting from a traditionally dense mineral city towards a truly operational garden city. And the transformation is driven by planning tools, engineering strategy, and field tested solutions across the city. So Paris is often associated with Haussmann 19th century planning model and with also its iconic parks such as the Butte Chaumont or Parc Monceau. But behind this historic image lies major structural constraint. Paris is one of the densest cities in Europe, and as density increases, so do vulnerabilities, especially in the current context. Air pollution, noise exposure, intense heat waves, flooding risk, housing pressure, and aging population all converge and interact. And climate change amplifies each of these issues. From a planning perspective, this means that we must rethink the city metabolism, its flows, its materials, its surfaces, and its ecological performance. This is exactly why, from the beginning of her mandate, the Mayor of Paris made climate adaptation a strategic priority. The city goals for the current terms cover essential dimensions: climate adaptation, biodiversity protection, improved daily living conditions, access to nature, social and environmental justice, stronger ecosystem services, and better environmental health. To coordinate these objectives, Paris relies on several strategies, but the backbone, the plan that structures all the other plan, is the climate plan. Its ambition is operational. So its ambition is to accelerate action, bring solutions closer to residents, and ensure fairness. And its first priority is clear, is to protect the population from climate impacts. So this means rethinking urban design at every scale, from a street section to major public spaces, through greening, cooling, and climate responsive planning. And all these transformations are under construction, and some of them are already delivered. So let me show you some example. We are redesigning our traditional boulevard to incorporate vegetation, permeable surfaces, and thermal comfort strategies. We are creating urban forests on emblematic squares. They are not forests in an ecological sense, but they work as micro-habitats for fauna and flora. They increase shade, reduce heat, improve pedestrian comfort, and demonstrate that greening can be also integrated even in constrained spaces. And today, the resident feedbacks confirms their values. Another key project type is the Oasis schoolyards. Paris is systematically greening schoolyards to improve thermal comfort and resilience to heat waves. And also it has an educational part to connect children with nature a little bit more. We also transform the surroundings of streets, reducing car traffic, introducing vegetation to create school streets, and also to have a safer and healthier environment for all. At the neighborhood scale, we have implemented the Embellish Your Neighborhood initiative that brings a participatory engineering dimension. That is to say, residents can express their needs, identify opportunities, and the city can prioritize its intervention. And this approach responds to a growing demand of a greener environment. And at a city level, we also act on the built environment wherever technically is possible. So we have a strategy of greening roofs and facade of public buildings. And so to go further and to limit biodiversity erosion, Paris has adopted its third biodiversity plan. It goes further than the previous edition with more than 70 indicators, ecological priority areas, and numerous local actions. Key measures of this plan include restoring hedges across the city as part of a broadened urban greening, also supporting outdoor education initiatives to reconnect children to nature. We want also to rewild major parks and forests, and also to promote biodiversity-oriented design. And so the biodiversity plan not only focus on green network, but also focus on consolidating the blue networks, meaning water ecosystem throughout Paris. And a major priority now is on the restoration of the riverbanks of the Seine. So our urban planning major tool, which is the local urban master plan, also includes a bioclimatic approach. And this plan makes it possible to require the creation of green spaces on private lands in Paris. And it also ensures the protection, the coherence in ecological continuity, and particularly through the enhancement of the green belt, as you can see on the map. So the plans promote the continuity between streets and buildings, both horizontally and vertically. Rooftop and greening the facade are essential component of this bioclimatic master plan. And so I would say, because the plan have many rules and initiatives, but maybe the two things we can highlight in a bioclimatic perspective is that the plan focuses on ecological continuity, both green and blue, and also green space protection. So what we can see here in brown is all the places where we want to enhance biodiversity and also protect all the existing green spaces, private green spaces. And so to ensure the effective implementation of all our plans and strategies, the City of Paris provides some tools enabling all stakeholders, residents, professionals, and project leaders to contribute in the greening strategy of Paris. So for the citizen, we offer free public activities such as guided visits, talk, and awareness programs. We support professionals with methodological guides. Here is the example of a guide dedicated to greening roofs. We provide also subsidies to help property owners to green their courtyard with this program, which is a Cooperatis program. And we train project leaders using the biodiv score, which is a self-evaluation tool that measure biodiversity impacts at the project level. And we can already observe results. So here are two maps. The first one is the maps of the Cool Island. And what is really impressive is that the Cool Island places are growing massively, significantly. And the other map here is not very striking, but we planted more than 100,000 trees. 100,000 trees within 6 years, which is a major, which have a major impact in the city, and we managed to increase our urban canopy by 2%. So to conclude, I would say that the framework developed by the City of Paris gave us the tool as an administration to act consistently from small-scale intervention to citywide strategy. And it also reminds us that every stakeholder matters in this process, because the city are a collective and complex creation. And finally, I'd like to say that the greening of Paris over the past 6 years has been one of the city's most remarkable transformation, and the changes to the landscape and the new way people are using public space are a success. And Paris has never seen so many public spaces projects ever, and this momentum really continues to reshape the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Leah. It was very interesting also to understand how you relate this solid urban policy framework to leverage the nature-based solution. And I will leave the floor to the last presentation, which will be presented by Renzo from the Committed to Green, and he will present us how this project will be in action.
Yes, thank you. My name is Renzo Stijvers. I work at the municipality of the city of The Hague. The city of The Hague is one of the main cities in the Netherlands. It has about 500,000 residents. Can you see my presentation?
No.
No? Okay. Let me try again. Yes.
Yes.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
As I said, the city of The Hague has about 500,000 residents. There's a great housing shortage, so there's a lot of development going on to build more houses. One of these areas is called the Binkhorst, one of the districts in The Hague, fairly close to the center of the city. It is now an industrial area which is being rebuilt to a livable district, which means that working spaces are being partly moved, and there are houses being built, but not only houses, but also schools, shops, public transportation, and parks. The building of the development of the neighborhood is such that the parks are not available yet, but they will be realized from 2029 and further on. But the number of residents is growing, and they want their public space and their green spaces to recreate. So we had to come up with a solution, and that was a temporary park. We call it a pilot park. So we found this public space in the center of the district, which in the future will be built upon, but now is bare land. And we built it a temporary park there. The area was bare. There's not a lot of nature in this district, but in this specific fields, there were a lot of different plants, vegetation growing, and lots of insects. But what was missing was that it wasn't a very attractive space to recreate in. So we wanted to design a space which was attractive to the residents, but also attractive to nature. And we used the Bink 5 as a guideline to design the spaces. Bink 5 are animals, which we want to live in these areas, and they are bats, a fish, a butterfly, and some birds. And we use the guidelines that those species need for their environment to design the park. What we mainly needed to do is to add some trees and shrubs. In total, we planted more than 200 trees and like 1,500 shrubs in these areas. In doing this and creating some small hills and some ditches, we created an attractive green area for the plants and the animals, but we also needed to make an attractive area for the residents. So we did some co-design tracks with them. And we asked the people mainly, what would you like to be able to do in this park to make it your park? You can see the list of things they would like to have there. So playgrounds, mating places, a leash-free area for dogs. We also made a memorial bush for a local artist. Playgrounds, sport grounds, and gardening. So in doing this, we realized in a very short time quite an attractive park for the residents. But that was just one of the goals. One of the other goals was to learn from in realizing this park on the soil we had with the plants we used, how we could do this in the future for the waterfront park. And the waterfront park is one of the main parks that will be one of the main green structures in this district in the future. So we wanted to learn how we could enhance biodiversity as make an attractive environment for the people. So we want to monitor how that goes and use that for the waterfront park, which we will be realizing in about 5 years. And the park, the waterfront park, our future park, which is quite a big park, you can see in this picture in the left lower half of the picture, and it is quite a large park, and we hope to make it an attractive park for our Bink 5 and for all the residents. Okay, thank you. That was it.
Thank you, Renzo, for this inspiring presentation. So as we are already running out of time, but I think that it's better to have maybe 5 minutes for any question. So I saw that there are lots of questions asked during the discussion and during the presentation in the chat, but if you have any other question or insights, or like you want to share something, that will be the time. Just 5 minutes question. Okay, thanks. Okay. So no question. So I think we can wrap up. And thank you for staying a little bit longer than expected. So this was a webinar for NBS, understanding NBS and sustainable solution for urban resilience. And I will thank you all for being here and for the insightful presentation, but also for the questions that were emerging during the discussion that we have. And if you want, I just leave here in the chat all the different links for our project, so then you can have a look on that. And for who asked me, We have recorded this this webinar, and it will be available as soon as possible in our channels. So thank you all for being here, and looking forward to see you in the next webinars that we are going to organize. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.